Hey guys, my name is Anthony and in today's video I'm going to be going over my second episode of my track guide from an average player series. So if you want to see more track guides like this, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 200 subscribers, so hopefully I can hit that over the next coming days. And you can already see that the lap here at Bahrain has already started. I'm just going to let this lap run through smoothly so that you can see the lap in its entirety. And then after we've shown the setup, can't speak, I'll sort of go a little bit more in depth into this lap. So here we are now coming into this right hander. You want to brake at the 100 meter board down to third and then shift quickly back up to fourth just to get the most amount of traction you can. And then at the end of sector 1 beginning of sector 2 here, these nice flowing corners, you just want to throw the car into them. And then at the end of this blue patch, that's where I start braking down to first at the apex. And then you want to shift back up to third. I know that before in the previous video I said that in this game it doesn't look as if you're going to need to go down into first and quickly shift down and quickly shift up like you did in the previous game, but it does seem as if it does work in this game, which is a little bit disappointing to me, but I'm not going to stop myself from doing it just because it's something that disappoints me. I would like it if you were able to, if the game forced you, to sort of shift down a little bit slower, more like how they would in real life, but it is what it is, and you have to do what you have to do in order to be quick at this game. So now we're coming up to the end of this lap now, the final corner. You want to brake at the 100 meter board down to third at the apex and then shift back up to fourth just to, again, to get the most amount of traction possible. And we come across the line now to do, I believe, a 25.8, which is a pretty decent lap for me. So we're looking at the setup now. I can't really talk much over the setup because I can't really see the numbers, mainly because I'm using Sony Vegas to look at the video here as I'm talking to you guys. But you can see that this setup as it's playing, I built this setup for the race. It's not a time trial setup. I really just wanted to sort of build a setup that was stable to me, and you guys will be able to see that later on when I showcase the a few laps that I did in a race. So coming into the actual breakdown of this lap now, we're in the DRS zone coming up to turn 1, and for turn 1 I like to brake near the 100 meter board, pretty much not where this curb is but a little bit past where the curb starts. Brake in a complete straight line and then trail brake into the corner down to first and then back up to third as quickly as possible. That second corner you sort of want to cut a little bit just so you can get that nice line into the DRS zone here. And in here I brake at the 100 meter board, and as you can see most of my car is actually outside the track, and then I brake in a straight line and then swoop the car back into the apex, and that just gives you the best line possible through that corner. And then here you can see I've slowed down the clip. At this corner I actually brake around about 30% and then just start throwing the car into corners here as you do at that section there. And then here, as you can see, I tend to brake pretty much where the blue patch ends right there. I know it's hard to see, but that's pretty much where I brake, and then down to first and then back up to third again as quickly as possible. And then we come to the infamous turn 10. You'll be able to see as I slow the clip down here, I brake in a straight line towards the sort of curb there, and then as soon as I get towards the curb, that's when I start lifting my foot off the brake pedal and sort of turning in towards the apex here. And then as soon as I pass the apex, that's when I start shifting up and I start applying the power out of the corner. As you can see, we got a little bit of oversteer there, but it didn't really matter because we got the most amount of traction because we shift up straight away. So coming into this corner now, I tend to brake pretty much where the fence sort of changes color in between the 100 and the 50 meter board, and then you want to sort of take the esports line, which again is when you go towards the outside of the track and then swoop back in. So yeah, as we come into turn 13 now, what I like to do is I like to go out wide, and then as soon as that orange barrier passes my screen and I can't see it anymore, that's when I start braking, and I brake down to third and then quickly shift back up to fourth once again to get that most amount of traction that I possibly can. So coming into turn 14 now, I like to brake pretty much right at the 100 meter board, shift down very quickly, and then have the car sitting out wide once again so you can swoop back in. When it comes to these sort of F1 games, you sort of want to swoop out wide and then swoop back in. That's the best way to really get the most amount of time here. And once again, we did a 25.8, I believe. So you'll be able to see some gameplay now. It's just me going over the first and the fastest lap of the race that I did. It was just a 5% race here at Bahrain. I just wanted to sort of showcase how I drive when it comes to driving against the AI and stuff like that. In future videos, if I have the time, I will probably showcase these sort of clips where I'm driving against actual other people, so that you can see how to drive against other people, because I know a lot of you guys do tend to play online. So yeah, it'll probably be better if I did that instead of just playing against the AI. But for now, this is what I'm doing, and as you can see, you know, it's all about just throwing the car into the corner in that section there, and then braking, spotting the braking point, and then trail brake into the corner. So when it comes to actually racing on these tracks, there's some tactics that you would usually do in like a qualifying lap or on time trial that you wouldn't really want to do in the race, as we actually got a little bit wide here, which allows Verstappen to really capitalize on that. But luckily we're using the overtake button, so we didn't really have to worry too much about Verstappen passing us there. But when it comes to actually being in the race, you don't necessarily want to apply some of the tactics that you would in like time trials or in like a qualifying lap. In a qualifying lap, you do tend to be a little bit more aggressive when turning into corners. You would just absolutely just send the car into certain corners, which you don't really want to do in race. In the actual race, you want to be a little bit more smooth, because obviously you want to preserve your tires. And when it comes to your fuel management, as you can see here, I'm not really actually managing my fuel or my ERS, but in a 50% race, you're going to want to try and manage your fuel and your ERS as best as you can. My only tip as we go into the fastest lap of the race here, well, the fastest lap of the race for me personally, but when it comes to the ERS, for example, you don't really want to use that as much, especially the overtake button. I know in this year's game they pretty much have it at automatic, so you're always using medium ERS unless you're using overtake. When you're racing other people, you don't really want to use the ERS as much, because you want to sort of save as much ERS as you can for the final few laps, so that you can take advantage of anybody else who sort of have been using their ERS throughout the race and their fuel throughout the race. So yeah, that's going to be the end of this track guide from me. If you liked this track guide, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more track guides, league races, challenges, or anything to do with F1 2020. Then make sure to stick around, because I'm going to be uploading as much as I can over these next 2 weeks, hopefully daily, and then after that, you know, we'll just try to continue the grind. So I'll see you guys in the next video.